You never appreciated anything I've done for this family, you ungrateful bitch.
Walter White finally let Skyler have it, and we'll talk more about that in just a few seconds, but first let me say this is probably the best episode I've ever seen of Breaking Bad. Hell, it's probably the best 1 hour of TV I've ever watched. I mean, everything just kept unfolding, the shit kept hitting the fan. That's how you make good television, people. Anyway, real quick, before we jump into my thoughts about this episode, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Matt Pinwell, because I asked everyone on my Facebook page, by the way, link down below, click like, join me, and I'll see you there. I asked right before this episode started, what are your predictions? What's going to happen in this episode? And I think he got the closest prediction before the episode started. Some other people snuck in their predictions like 20 minutes after the episode actually started. Okay, let's talk about this episode. Hank's dead. Hank bit the bullet, literally and figuratively. And I like the way that Hank went out in this episode. You know, Hank never stopped being Hank. You know, he was still a badass up until the end. Here's what happened. You know, Hank's on the ground. Todd's Nazi uncles, I just call them Todd's Nazi uncles. They come up, they have a gun on him. Walt's sitting there trying to pleading everything he has for Hank's life. And I really respected that. But in the end, Hank already knew what was coming. He looked at Walt and he's like, you're the smartest man I know. But even I know, 10 minutes ago, they made up their mind to kill me. Gomez is dead, and Jesse's hiding under a car in the opening of this. I was kind of wondering what they're going to do with Jesse. Because him running away out into like the canyons didn't make much sense to me. I'm like, how did one of the 8 Nazis standing over there not see him run away? So he's hiding in a hole underneath the car. They take old Jesse boy, and now Todd's basically utilizing him to make perfect meth. Jesse's pretty much chained up in this warehouse, kind of like Hannibal Lecter was in the movie Red Dragon. You know, he's got a chain back here like on a dog leash, and he can only walk back and forth. Let's talk about Walt Jr. here. Pancakes! Walt Jr. knows his father's a meth maker now, or a drug dealer, because Marie made Skyler tell him. That scene where Walt gets in a fight with Skyler and she takes the knife out like a crazy fucking psycho. Like, I understand she's losing her mind. She thinks that Walt might have killed Hank. What is it with people? Whenever they get accused of something like that, they can never just say, no, this is what happened. He has to act all weird about it. So I don't blame her for pulling the knife out, but when she started swinging it all rapidly, I was like, good God. Think before you act, woman. And that's what went through my head. And it cuts Walt's hand, and then they're wrestling around on the ground. I thought something bad was going to happen there. I thought like Walt Jr. might have got hurt or something, but no, old Walt goes over there and chokes his dad out to get off his mom, and then he calls the cops and he's like, but Dad pulled a knife at my mom. It's like, no he didn't, you liar. You do come from your dad's gene pool, so lying is definitely going to happen. It's a hereditary trait. Okay, let's talk about the end of the episode. I'm going to sit down for this because my adrenaline levels are up here, and I got to bring them down here. Okay, let's calm down, everyone. Let's recline. There we go. Alright, the end of the episode, so Walt basically kidnaps Holly. You know, he just wants to say goodbye to his child, you know, and here's what happens. Here's what I really loved about this episode. Is at the very end, you have all the cops at the White's residence, and they're listening in to a phone call that Walter makes to Skyler. And, you know, this is one of my favorite parts about this episode. And Walt's basically playing the bad guy. He's not saying things that he really means. You can tell what's happening is he wants to take all the attention off of what really happened and put it on him, because he knows this whole thing can die with him, essentially. So he's like, you'll never see Hank again. You know, he doesn't say that he killed him, but he doesn't want to, you know, involve anybody else. He doesn't want the Todd's Nazi uncles. I keep referencing them as Todd's Nazi uncles, but it just makes sense. You know, he doesn't want anything to connect with his family, so he makes everything go on him, and I really liked that. I liked that he was saying things that he didn't mean. He was about to cry throughout the whole conversation. I was like, whoa, this is pretty intense. He kind of says some things you could tell that he was suppressing throughout his life, like calling Skyler an ungrateful bitch, because I think everyone who watches this show at some point was thinking the same thing. I know I was. When he said that, even if he didn't completely mean it, I was like, yes. Finally, Skyler shuts the hell up, because the only thing Skyler ever does in these shows is she always makes it like a bad situation worse. That's what Skyler does. I mean, when your husband comes home frantically sweating and says, we gotta get out of here, you don't wave a knife at him, Skyler, okay? Get in the car, zip it. Okay, here's my prediction for the rest of the season, alright? And also, the guy I gave a shout out to in the beginning of this episode pretty much had the same theory, and I'm gonna completely agree with it. So at the end of this episode, we had Walt getting into that red creepy minivan Jesse was supposed to get into to go start his new life, but for some odd reason he felt he had to go revenge against Walter White rather than just run off into the sunset with the money and live happily ever after. But now I think he's kind of regretting that as he's chained up in Todd's meth laboratory. Walter White's going to go on the low for a while. You know, he's going to lay low, and I think eventually something's going to arise where he's like, oh my god, I have to go take out Todd's Nazi uncles or else my family's going to be in danger. Really, if you think about it, those Nazis are eventually going to be like, you know what, we have to eliminate all equations that lead back to this. We have to kill Walter White and his family. So in order to protect his family, Walter White's going to come back, kick some ass Scarface style, and eliminate everyone. So anyway, guys, let me know what you thought of this episode. What do you think is going to happen in the last couple episodes of Breaking Bad? Where do you think this is going? Do you think they're going to throw this for some kind of a twist? I don't know. I don't know if this show anymore. You know, it just keeps surprising me and giving me exactly what I need. Now it's time for me to go upstairs and eat some reheated pizza. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.